Hi, and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of April 5th, 2021. In terms of the stock market direction, I think that this will be a down week, especially at the end of the week. Thursday and Friday, to me, look like days with increased probability of a really major market drop. But otherwise, I think even Monday through Wednesday perhaps will be days with somewhat increased probability of market going down, but Thursday and Friday in particular look pretty bad to me, and especially Friday morning looks like a very tense time where there may be some uncertainty or some confusion, and that sense of uncertainty and confusion or some negative news about oil prices perhaps or about healthcare issues may bring the market down. In terms of the general background influence for the period of April 5th through the 15th, on a global scale, there may be increased news about topics related to IT, communication, transportation businesses, like airlines, car manufacturers, also retail sales, social media, and especially online retailers. So anything that's done over the internet, that involves communicating over the internet, etc. There we may hear about some large-scale plans to either basically restructure a business or to come up with a really new sort of progressive, innovative approach on how an online business like a social media platform or like I said, an airline may function. So for example, there may be some either news or plans or talks about, say, even in government taking over or nationalizing, say, an airline, or something along the lines of introducing more structured, more controlled, more, I guess, government controlled or just more controlled approach to perhaps where a large corporation acquires a smaller startup. And again, this might be in the area of IT, communication, transportation, and especially for industries or for businesses that are primarily somehow doing things online. And let's see, or something that involves processing large data volumes, like a cloud computing type of area, for example. So there may be some proposal for like a new method being implemented to either, again, move things faster, move larger volumes of data than before, process like larger scale shipments, so improve maybe how fast a product can be shipped. And the proposal again will involve either government sponsored maybe bill of some sort, or large corporation again acquiring one or more of smaller startup companies to kind of reinvent itself. In terms of another area where we may hear some news both globally but also out of the US is for April 5th through about the 11th. There may be increased news related to oil, gas, chemicals, also pharmaceuticals, and any other Neptunian domains, meaning like water, such as the excessive precipitation, but also Navy ships, marine life, fishing, also audiovisual equipment, movies, music, things of that nature. And for those areas, both for the US as well as globally, unfortunately, the news may be stressful. So there may be problems related to, say, oil leaking or some other chemical leaking and causing a contamination, some problems with water not being contained. So excessive precipitation leads to floods, and water erodes area where there are chemicals, and again there's a spill, or there's some problem for the Navy where there's some confusion and maybe ships collide because again there's too much precipitation, it's a heavy rain, fog, or system malfunctions and the GPS whatever is not accessible, and therefore a boat basically runs aground because again it couldn't really whoever was I guess at the wheel couldn't really tell which direction to go, something along those lines. And on the larger scale, there may be just a lot of news about either confusion, either deception, data not being clear. Again, this could be just by accident, or it could be intentional sort of situation where data is hidden, reports contain erroneous information, again, by accident or on purpose, or there's just some confusion and the connection, the communication is wrong, and so, again, some information is passed down incorrectly, or, again, intentionally there's like a hacking or spying kind of a situation, and basically there's a breach of information or breach of, say, water containment. And that's both significant, like I said, for the US as well as internationally. In the US, of course, just recently over the weekend, there was some news out of Florida where there was an ongoing situation at the Piney Point plant, which is like I guess previously used to be a mine, and there's some contaminated or rather at a reservoir with contaminated water that has been leaking, and currently things are, there is effort to pump the water out, so there is no breach, but indeed last weekend there was I guess, emergency alert to like hundreds of nearby houses that there was a danger of imminent, flooding from the potentially the reservoir collapsing. And also what's interesting is that there was, I guess, some sort of prison nearby that had to be evacuated. And of course, Neptunian sort of domain also rules things like prisons, monasteries, hospitals. So for this particular area, this particular situation at Piney Point, things unfortunately may escalate towards the end of the week. And as I said, Friday morning, New York time is perhaps the worst time. So if there's indeed some sort of breach or some escalation, that's when it might occur. And similarly for, again, any other areas internationally, if, say, a location could be a hospital, a movie theater, or, prison, even a monastery, any of these kind of remote, secluded locations, and or it could be in the water, underwater. So again, ships, submarines, etc. So all of those Neptunian locations, unfortunately, or oil rig, for example, oil pipe, may unfortunately this week, and especially Thursday, Friday, suffer from some either an accident or a problem where there's a fire or even an attack on such a location. So basically those are not the best times to be, say, going on a cruise, I would say. And for oil and gas, and also the value of those of oil and gas and related, say, chemicals, may go down, and or there may be arguments over and conflicts over the value of oil, or some standoff where it delays, or an accident or bad weather, perhaps, that leads to delay in, say, shipment or processing, or there's conflict over sale that again involves oil, gas, chemicals, as well as pharmaceuticals, especially those that are somehow in liquid form and or are related to but to addictions. So maybe those kind of chemicals or those kind of drugs there may be some problems with that. Say there's a trial for some sort of pharmaceutical, it may not go well this week. Let's see. Oh yeah, and also the situations that may arise this week, there may be either an echo or follow-up or similar situation occurring the week of August 30th, 2021. So the areas, say, at Piney Point plant, rather, in the US, if certain areas basically are susceptible or sensitive to these transits that are occurring this week, chances are, there's a greater than usual probability that those same areas may be then responding to similar kind of negative transits, stressful transits that will occur the week of August 30th. So at that point, the same areas, the same businesses, the same locations may yet again experience another sort of unfortunate circumstances. So for China this week, I guess only maybe valid for the 5th, so the Monday, There may be increased focus on the value or sales of, yet again, oil, gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, navy, ships, etc. So any sort of transportation over water or transportation of oil, gas, and things of that nature. And there are too maybe some concerns about sort of the country's, I guess, ability to either transport these sort of chemicals, for example, or its power to buy oil. So perhaps there's some news, there might be increased news about the value of its currency, and again specifically in relation to being able to buy or sell or profit from things like oil, gas, chemical sales, or from transporting related products. In particular, on the 5th of April, there may be some increased news about some new approaches or new plans to increase China's earnings or financial stability, and maybe there may be some clarification about basically some plans, some fiscal policies that may affect the value of its currency, or plans to adjust rates or anything along those lines. But again, it may relate somehow or affect somehow its value, its ability to either purchase certain chemicals, sell chemicals, or purchase or sell certain pharmaceuticals, or transport things via like ships, things of that nature. So I don't know, I guess enough about Chinese economy to comment on more specific type of manifestations. So Tuesday, Wednesday to me do look like down days. I would only give it about 60% chance, so it doesn't look quite as bad. However, when we get to Thursday and Friday, that's when I'm more certain than that we will have really major drop, especially, like I said, Friday morning looks the worst to me. And at the same time, there may be increased news, as I mentioned, about the value of oil, gas, and I think their value may go down, and or there may be conflicts about, say, transportation of those products. There may also be some concerns about businesses related to, say, audiovisual equipment, so like cameras, for example, or businesses that somehow, like, makes me think of Shutterstock, any companies that somehow rely, or even Pinterest, that rely on say, images being sold or provided to consumers. So there may be some problems where, again, the data is stolen, there's hacking situation going on, or there's just some conflict about that. And yet again, increased probability of just various accidents, fires, even attacks or upsets and conflicts. So it could involve, say, countries that are specifically known for maybe selling oil or for transporting oil, or the actual, say, oil tanker catches fire or something along those lines. It's also not a good day for any activities that specifically involve like pharmaceuticals, chemicals that would require precise dosage or precise mixing of certain ingredients, because again, there's a greater than usual chance of things just kind of going south and there being a confusion about, again, the right dose, the right ingredients, the right direction. So there may be just accident due to some basically miscommunication or confusion. And for the market, there may be, again, the echo of these sort of news may affect the market and it may go down, or there just may be increased concerns about things, again, related to oil prices, and or pharmaceuticals or healthcare, and perhaps it will be some news about, the current pandemic, or some policies that may affect, again, oil prices, travel, or healthcare related activities. And those concerns, I think, may bring the market down on Thursday and Friday of this week in particular. And generally speaking, the mood that we will have this week will be quite different from the next week, the week of April 12th. And so April 12th to me looks like a more kind of a cheerful week. So I think the market direction from Friday, the 9th of April, will change to up on the 12th of April. And so then to quickly review the general background influence, through the end of, not through, say, November of 2022, we will have this slowly kind of unfolding square between Saturn and Uranus, which will just coincide with the tensions among various groups that represent various not various, but ideologies that are maybe more closely aligned with Saturn, which is like more conservative approach, kind of wanting for things to stay as they are and being super careful when maybe proposing any sort of changes, or rather being maybe opposed to any sort of changes, and or requiring scrutiny, like triple, double, triple, quadruple checking of everything, and the energies that are more closely aligned with Uranus, which would be, revolution, radical change, changing things super fast, and kind of being open to all kinds of, trying all kinds of new ideas, even if maybe not necessarily checking whether or not ahead of time whether or not something is going to work. So there's this friction, and friction may, on the one hand, manifest as just ideological clashes. At the same time, during certain periods when this transit is either more precise and or when it's triggered by faster moving planets, especially Mars, that particular square, this kind of ideological tension, theoretical sort of tension, can then manifest as actual problems such as violence, anti-governmental protests, and accidents. And for now, I guess this particular week, things are not super tense, and the square between Uranus and Saturn is not very precise. However, getting into June, especially like June 3rd through the 25th, and within that time period, especially the 4th and 5th of June, look somewhat more tense. So there's greater probability for earthquakes, protests, attacks, collapses of some facilities underground, just like problems of that nature. And especially then at the end of June and into early July, where there may be even worse escalations, which could be related to like geopolitical tensions, some sort of skirmishes between, countries that are bordering each other, or just fires, explosions, just things kind of, again, exploding really, either because it's an accident, maybe there's a fire, just things get too hot, or because, again, there's an actual intentional attack. So June, and especially towards the end of June, I guess June 4th and 5th, and then towards the end of June and early July is when things will unfortunately be more tense and more dangerous, I would say. But this week, this influence will just remain as this background sort of ongoing influence. Then for the US, general period of March through April, so March 1st through May 1st, and then also from the end of August of this year into late February of next year, there will be a period where there may be increased uncertainty related to military weapons, perhaps also sports, but also things like Navy in particular. And this confusion or some uncertainty may affect dealings with partners or agreements with partners. So again, there may be some, say if there's a planned, exercise that involves Navy, there's a greater probability of things, of there being an error due to some confusion, again, miscommunication, where, planning is not quite as precise as normally it would be, or again, there's a miscommunication and an unintentional, situation that is maybe just some fishing boat is happens to be in the wrong place in the wrong time, but that is being confused for an actual threat, and things escalate unnecessarily, or there's like a maritime accident, and again, it may involve actual like water, like a ship, or it could involve spying, hacking, bioweapons, chemicals, or just some deception or something where, again, there's an agreement with partners and one of the partners is secretly doing something that they're not supposed to be doing. And that, again, may involve things like weapons, military, especially Navy, and also sports. So I guess things of that come to mind could be related to, doping or something like that, or just, again, some deception, somebody not treating fairly and that's strong. That influence is strong through the end of April, and then it picks up again at the end of August and will remain in, I guess, valid through the end of February of next year. And let's see, another sort of a general background influence that's going to be significant for the US, and it begins in April of this year, so this week, but then it will remain with us through March of 2022, so a virtually entire year. And that, yet again, there will be increased focus on oil and gas industries, also chemicals, pharmaceuticals, navy, waterships, so yet again all those Neptunian domains, and also locations which would be movie theaters, prisons, hospitals, pharmacies, etc. There may be increased news about both, natural events such as hurricanes, flooding, water erosion, contamination of water, but also about just these industries undergoing kind of significant developments and changes that really haven't been seen, I would say, from beginning of maybe when the oil industry even started being developed in the US. So some really major transformation will be happening, I guess, starting from about April of this year through March of next year. And so it's a slowly, I guess, changing situation, but there might be pivoting where those businesses will have to repurpose themselves somehow, and or there may be some new developments, some new engineering projects that involve locations near water, underwater, like maybe laying of undersea cables, for example. And unfortunately, some of these businesses may suffer from some problems. And again, it's not just oil and gas industry, but also could be, again, pharmacies, even hospitals. And unfortunately, there may be some situations that could be confusing at least initially, as far as like which direction things are going, or some things that are expected to be precise and clear, such as, the dosage of something, or, accounting, the books. There may be some errors or some problems or some deception where reports may come out and then they have to be corrected because, say, some pharmaceutical company finds like an error in their reports, or there's unclear healthcare policy, and there's some concerns about the price of some medicines. So basically those areas may undergo major changes, and also there may be some greater than usual confusion or some errors in how they do business. And that obviously may lead to dissatisfaction with those entities or concerns about, associated damages, either because, again, that particular company messed up, or because, again, of some natural events such as hurricanes affecting, say, oil industry. And also, again, at the same time, so April of this year through March of next year, for the US, there may also be concerns about areas related to banks and banks' assets, real estate, loans, mortgages, as well as just farming, land, and sort of food security. And again, those could be related. So if there are major floods, obviously they may affect soil and lead to contamination of the soil, which may affect food prices, for example. Or obviously floods may affect even housing, and somehow maybe damage more houses than usual, and that may affect say real estate prices. But there may also be just concerns about bank stability because of just too much debt, or some concerns about loan. Again, things just being not literally, but rather figuratively underwater, be it because of floods or be it because of just, again, too much of debt, basically. And so there may be concerns about bank stability related to that, as well as concerns about just like food safety and basically how well the farmers are doing. And let's see. And also lastly, this April, as well as then August and December of 2021 for the US, and I guess globally, there will be increased news about silver and gold prices, and those may be related to announcements related to the US fiscal policies. And particularly this month, the important date to note would be around April 17th, and I think in say 5 or so days preceding to that, I think there might be an increase in gold and probably also silver prices. And after the 17th, around then, plus minus, let's say a day or two, but I say 17th, after that I would expect a reversal in gold and or silver prices. At this time, I think it would be basically a top, but either way, whatever the direction is, I think the 17th or so, we may see a direction change in gold and or silver prices. And again, this I think will be related to some announcements out of the US regarding like US, say, rates or some fiscal policies, or associated with changes in the value of US dollar. And for August, similar date would be around August 9th. And then finally in December 15th, yet again will be another date when again there may be some reversals in the gold and or silver prices, and then that may be related to the value of US dollar or some changes in the US financial policies. So that's about it for me, and I hope you enjoyed this weekly review, and come back and check me out next week. Until then, have a great week, everyone. Bye.